So let's bring in our My Week contributors, Nolan Finley of the Detroit News, Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Hey guys, how are you?
We're glad to be here.
I know, I'm glad to have you here. We're rolling into Election Day coming up on Tuesday. Any last minute things we need to look out for in the races, Nolan?
I don't think there'll be any surprises in the race. I mean, of course, you're watching the margin of victory. I think that's what the mayor will be watching. He wants an affirmation.
In the Detroit mayor's race.
In the Detroit mayor's race, I think he wants an affirmation of his tenure and a good send-off into a second term. Also be looking to see if voters, what voters do in that second district race with Virgil Smith and whether they give Virgil a second chance. I would tend to doubt it, but you never know. You
never know. Hey, so you looked at a little bit of the data about what voters are thinking and what kinds of voters are voting for Duggan or they plan to vote for Coleman Young. What'd you find?
Yeah, so, you know, Coleman Young has made his entire campaign about this idea of two Detroits, the people who are being left behind in neighborhoods that are not seeing the improvement that downtown and midtown have seen. And you would think then that that would be his base of support, those voters. But in fact, if you look sort of precinct by precinct and overlay poverty data on them, you find that Mike Duggan does as well or better among poor voters in the city.
Why do you think that is?
And Coleman Young does. I mean, I think it's not a message problem. I think those voters are well aware of their circumstances. I think they don't think Coleman Young is the person to help them. I think he's not made the case that he could do it differently or better. And I think he's also had a hard time connecting with those voters. So you think about that personal connection that Detroiters look for, particularly in mayoral races. I don't think he's done that. If you think back to 2005, when Kwame Kilpatrick really made up a huge gap.
He was going almost 24 hours a day, it felt like.
But
he
was on the streets talking to people, selling them on voting for him, and I don't know that that's working for him.
Really quick, city clerk, your papers both endorsed the same person for a Detroit city clerk in this case.
Yeah, we went with Garland Gilchrist. I guess the Free Press did as well. We've got to change. We've got to bring some competence to that city clerk's office. We are now into our second clerk administration where you have clerks who can't seem to count the vote, can't seem to protect the integrity of the ballot. They are disenfranchising black voters when they lose ballots, when they don't count votes, when people can't get into voting places to vote. That is disenfranchisement.
Yeah, I think it was interesting too, but you put Garland Gilchrist almost on the stage of this next generation of potential leaders in the city.
I am really excited by his emergence on the political scene here. Number one, because this is a guy who has actually gone off and done some things with his life. I mean, he grew up here, went to college here, went away and actually did the work in the space that he now seeks to serve in public office. I think that matters. I also think he sort of helps us emerge from that shadow of the Kilpatrick just disaster, an entire generation of political leadership that just got wiped out there. Garland's sort of the leading edge of that, I guess, right now.
All right. Well, we'll be watching on
Win
Tuesday.
Win or lose, I think.